Today we are back with something very special. Yes, you know what it is, guys. It is the tutorial series that I've been talking about for way too long now. So it's time to finally take a look at what I've been building. But before we do that, let's quickly go over a few things. As you guys know, I've been working on this for a very long time. That means there is actually 16 different versions of this world, which we're going to be taking a look at just a couple of them in a moment, and I'll be talking about why I changed some of the things. But one of the biggest things I need to know from you guys is, do you want to see this as a tutorial series? If you do, please be sure to smash that like button and leave me some feedback below. Now, the reason I ask this is because there is a big sort of debate between tutorials. Sometimes tutorials do well, sometimes they do bad. And the last thing I want to do is be starting a huge series if there is a lack of interest. That does unfortunately mean that if there is a very low amount of likes on the video, that I'm going to feel like you guys don't want to see this as a tutorial series, and there won't be one. So if you do want to see it, guys, please be sure to hit that like button, because it's going to give me an indication that you guys have got interest in seeing it. Now, like I said, I actually have 16 versions of this world, some with some small changes, some with some bigger changes, but there are a lot of changes that I made along the way. Mainly because this is a bit of a new style for me, so I wanted to make something that was very different, and there were a lot of things that I didn't like along the way, so I had to change them. Sometimes it was layout, sometimes it was buildings, sometimes it was just the general structure of everything. So, you know, there was a lot of things that I had to learn along the way, but I think you guys are going to like it in the end. So with that being said, I think it's time we take a look at the very first attempt at building this world. So let's take a quick look at the very first original version, which I gotta say, it was shaping up fairly nice. But as with most things that I build, I always build with a certain structure and a shape in mind. Now when I started this one, I kind of had a few mix of ideas, and what I kind of felt like is that my mix of ideas combined into one, making the build feel a little bit kind of uneven. You know, it kind of felt like it went from a little quaint village into a fairly busy shaped village a little bit too quickly. The farmland and the layout here, it does look very nice, and I was very happy with it. But it still wasn't quite what I was looking for. What I was going for was something a little bit more bright and colourful. And while this is bright and colourful, it still felt a little bit too open, too empty, too small. So this kind of gave me a better idea of what I was going for, and I decided that the future would consist of one main structural idea. This will also consist of a castle. Now this castle has been through quite a few changes, so this is not the final version, but this is kind of the idea it was originally based on. The second version ended up incomplete purely because we ended up shifting from 1.17 to 1.18. Unbeknown to me, I didn't know that seeds were going to completely be changed in 1.18, which meant that anyone that wanted to follow along in this same area would have not been able to, because the siege just didn't exist in 1.18. It was completely different, with no area even similar. So we restarted in 1.18, finding a new area, but overall this place was really shaping up to an area that I loved. I loved the shape of the land, I liked my color choices, and everything was sort of all planned out in my mind. I knew where I was going with it, and then I had to stop because of 1.18. 1.18 led me into way too many different versions, so I'm just going to quickly showcase a couple of the better layouts that I enjoyed. This one here I did like very much, but it started feeling too big and too much for a small town. I had a too high a level for the castle, and it just didn't work. The next version was starting to shape up more like what I had. In between this and the last version was about another 10 different versions of different alterations. This was kind of more than the idea what I was going for, but again was starting to feel far too open. While I kind of liked the way everything was looking, and I liked all of the gardens and the shape and the design and stuff, I like to work on a much closer area, and this was just too open for me. So as much as I liked it, it didn't feel like what my original goal was for working with this series. So yet again, I decided to change again. The town consisted of many different versions for the village. This was actually one of my favoured versions of the village, or part of the village, and I really enjoyed the style, the colours here. The problem was that this colour palette didn't quite work with the castle, or at least I weren't too sure if it fitted with the castle. So I had many versions along the way, but overall these didn't work. Now, if you want to build along with this series, this is what you can expect. As you can see, we have got a beautiful little area down by a river. This is a very quaint and old feeling little town, surrounded by plenty of fields and a lot of interest. We've got a town hall and a very large castle, surrounded by plenty of gardens and plenty of greenery. Overall, the structure of everything here fits very nicely. Each area blends from one area to the next without anything feeling out of place. We've got some bridges and some connections to the castle, and we've got plenty of room to extend around the back if we wish to later on. We have a huge church, again going with a kind of sandstone effect, using a combination of stripped jungle wood, oak planks and stripped oak logs. Overall, I'm very happy with the layout that we have here, and the church fits perfectly into the grounds. The outer edge of town consists mostly of farmland and farmhouses. We worked with a few different colour palettes here to really blend into everything and to add a nice bit of colour so that we didn't feel too run down, and things still fitted very well with the rest of the town. So it feels like it flows nicely and naturally from one point of the castle all the way to the outskirts of the town. As you can see, there is a good variety of different builds here and a good selection of different colour palettes, but it all blends nicely from one point to the next. I kept the fields looking very organic, keeping these nice kind of shapes and curves. This allowed the fields to feel a little bit more fitting with the area and blend into the landscape. We have a huge selection of fields here, giving us a nice variety of colours and shape to the land. So overall, this is a very nice part of the town. The castle itself consists of a large garden area, so we have a lot of area for the back of the castle. Some of it is still incomplete, so we will come back to it later on. But overall, I've got to say this is one of my favourite builds I've done so far. Despite the fact that it took me a long time to get to a full-on idea and complete it all, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So be sure to give it a thumbs up if you want to see it in a tutorial series, and let me know what you think in the comments below. But for now, this is BlueNerd signing out, and I will catch you guys in the next one.